Dad's parents who told me to my face I'm not their real grandson are upset they're disinvited from my graduation and my life and no longer see them as grandparents. My 18 male dad's parents and my mom got into an argument because they mentioned they decided to start a college fund for my brother 11 male. It wasn't even brought up. They just decided to share it on their own. My mom was confused since they mentioned it out of the blue but thanked them. She asked them why they decided to make one now and why they brought it up. They said something about wanting to do it for their grandson and making sure it's set so he doesn't have to worry about paying for college. My mom then asked if they had started one for me, and they said I was their real grandson. So the answer was no, and they didn't have one for me. They added something about how I'd get something else and accused my mom of expecting too much. For context, my dad adopted me when I was 5. He started dating my mom when I was 2. I don't know my biological father personally, but I know of him. He died when I was 3. And my mom told me he wasn't a good person and was in and out of jail. My dad is the only dad I've ever known, and I always thought his parents accepted me. But hearing them basically say I wasn't their real grandson hurt. It wasn't even about the money. It was the fact that I was excluded and realizing the only reason why was because I wasn't my dad's biological son. The argument happened right in front of me and my brother, just a few days before Thanksgiving. Since then, I viewed my dad's parents differently and tried to keep my distance from them. They eventually apologized for saying I was their real grandson, but only because my dad basically forced them to. Over time, I realized I didn't really care anymore. I just loved them more than they loved me. School is almost back in, and I take senior pictures soon. My dad's parents were over for Christmas, and my parents brought up me taking pictures. That led to my dad's parents talking about how excited they were to see me graduate and how they couldn't wait. This confused me. It honestly did, because a month ago, they basically told me that I wasn't their real grandson. And now they're excited to see their grandson graduate? I told them that they weren't coming and that I didn't want them there. Of course, this shocked my parents and my dad's parents. They asked why, and I told them I remember them saying I wasn't their real grandson. So it doesn't make sense for them to want to come to my graduation when they have no ties to me. My dad looked upset and his parents were too. His parents basically said I should move on since they already apologized and meant no harm. I told them that when they apologized, it was only because my dad told them to. After that, it got awkward. This happened during Christmas, and I haven't seen them since. My dad told me they're hurt by what I said and that I should apologize and let them know I didn't mean it and that I still like them to come. I told him I meant what I said and that I don't want them there. It's not like I can stop them from coming anyway, but I'd prefer if they didn't since they have no reason to be there. He says their feelings are hurt. It's honestly embarrassing to think they've been my grandparents my whole life, only to find out they didn't even think of me as their grandson. My mom says she agrees with me but thinks I should consider my dad's feelings since this puts him in a hard position and wants everyone to be family. I'm not trying to hurt my dad, but I just don't want his parents at my graduation when I just found out they didn't accept me. Now for the top comments. Not the a whole. The fact that they said that never mind in front of you is outrageous. These are the consequences for actions and words, and they're upset they have to face them. And the fact everyone is worried about your dad's feelings and his parents' feelings, but are completely ignoring your feelings is telling. Not the a whole. Your feelings are hurt, and your feelings are just as valid. Once you say something like that, you can take it back no matter how much you wish you could. Thank you. I was starting to believe I was the one in the wrong, seeing how much this is making my dad upset. But what really stung was that they said all of that stuff right in front of me. I didn't even bother to say sorry until the next day, and only because my dad made them. I don't think they would have if my dad didn't tell them. Right now, it feels like my mom is the only one who really understands where I'm coming from. And my dad is just trying to play mediator. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my dad back the money he put into savings for me when I betrayed him by accepting extra stuff from grandparents who wouldn't give equally to my step-siblings? My parents created a savings account for me, 19 male, and started putting away money for me when I was young. My dad continued after my mom died, and by the time I turned 18, I had a pretty sizable savings account. When I was 8, my dad started dating Nina, who had kids from her previous relationship. They were 3 years old and 18 months at the time. My dad treated them just like his own since their dad was out of the picture. He made a rule after a couple of years when he didn't feel like his family or my mom's family were fair to them. My mom's side couldn't give me a big item for his house if they gave nothing to them. He said it wasn't fair if I opened a gaming console with a bunch of games from them, and nothing was sent to Nina's kids. They could send me some smaller stuff, and it wasn't a big deal. My dad's family had to give to us equally though, and he said there was no treating me differently because we were all a family. My dad's family did follow the rules publicly, but in private, they gave me extra money and smaller stuff. I never told Dad and I accepted it. My mom's family kept the big stuff for their house since I'd visit them a few times a month. They never sent anything for Nina's kids. My dad never talked to me about the rule. I think he expected me to be protective of Nina's kids and to insist we were a family and should all be treated the same, but I never felt the same way about the stepfamily stuff as he did. They got married when I was 12, but to me, they were still Nina's kids. Dad told me about the savings when I was 16, and I gained access when I turned 18. In October, my dad found out about the extra stuff his parents gave me. He and my aunt argued because he expected them to feel bad about originally treating Nina's kids differently than me. He said I'd have grown up feeling ashamed of them if he'd let it continue. And my aunt threw me and my grandparents under the bus, saying if I felt that way, why did I take this stuff behind his back? He was so mad. After he confronted my grandparents, he confronted me and asked how I could let my little siblings be treated differently. He told me a family is supposed to stand by each other. I told him he accepted them as his full family, but I never did. And I reminded him that in all the years I knew them, I never called them my family or my siblings. I even pointed out how I called them Nina's kids. He told me that wasn't right and that they grew up with me being their big brother. I said I was nice to them because they were kids, but that was it. Then he demanded I give him back all the money in my savings. He said if I was going to take all that extra stuff and betrayed a family, I didn't deserve it. I refused and told him the money is mine now. Nina lost her mind when she learned about it too. She didn't have family to give her kids anything, so she felt extra mad on behalf of her kids. She was also mad at Dad for letting me have the money when I did since they can't take it and split it between her kids. They keep asking for it back, and I keep saying no. They can't access it either, so it's safe. But they think I'm in a hole for taking the money when I knew I was accepting the stuff from my dad's parents. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They can't blackmail you into feeling differently than you do. Not the a-hole. Your dad's rules about equal treatment was his decision, not yours. You didn't ask for the extra stuff, and it's not your responsibility to ensure fairness for your step-siblings. The savings account was created for you, and you have every right to keep it. Your dad and Nina are projecting their frustrations onto you, but it's not your fault. Stand your ground and don't let them guilt you into giving up what's rightfully yours. Not the a-hole. He could have made a savings account for Nina's kids, but he didn't. Nina could have made a savings account for her kids, but she didn't. Even if the Bayou dad was not in the picture, that doesn't automatically mean his extended family couldn't have gifted and made a savings account for her kids, but they didn't. This is money that was intended for you, and you should keep it. Ask him if he'd rather have the money or a relationship with you because it seems like this is where it's headed. And start limiting contact if possible because I'm sure you'd rather have your mom back than the money. I'd love to have had my mom growing up and would take her over the money. Not sure my dad will ever get it because he tried to make me think of Nina as my new mom and it didn't work. Next story. Am I the a-hole for cutting my wife's stepmother off for my kids until she deletes her Instagram account? My wife and I have 2 children, 8 male and 5 female, and we're expecting a third. Since our eldest was born, we have been clear and consistent about not wanting pictures of them posted online. It was my wife's idea, but still a mutual decision. Most of our friends and family have no problem with that, but we've had problems with my wife's stepmother. She has, on several occasions, posted photos of our children on her Instagram account without our consent. Most are harmless. Pictures of her with them are family photos with more people in them. But there have been a few times she took pictures of the kids behind their backs and posted them. Every time we see a photo of our children on her Instagram page, we tell her to delete it. She always does, but the next time she sees them, it happens again. We have been having this discussion with her since our daughter was born. She never listens. Anyway, my family spent New Year's Eve at a rented beach house with some of my wife's paternal family. We returned home on January 1st. That same day, my wife's stepmother posted several pictures from the trip. Buried between them were 3 photos of our kids on the beach. They're both wearing swimsuits and, except for one of the pictures, don't seem aware of their being photographed. My wife and I talked, and we both agreed we've given her stepmother enough chances. As long as she's active on social media, she will continue posting pictures of our children without our consent. We called her yesterday and said that she won't be allowed to see our kids unless she deletes her Instagram account. That means she won't have any kind of contact with them, receive pictures, or be invited to their events. She cried during the call and tried to promise us she would delete the New Year's Eve post and never do anything like this again. But we told her we can't trust her. She can keep her account if she wants to, but she won't be allowed near our kids if she does. My father-in-law, who is also against posting pictures of children on social media, called my wife last night. He agreed that her stepmother crossed a line but said cutting her off from our children was an exaggeration. He said she just started to make money with social media, but she also loves our kids very much, and it's cruel to force her to choose. I don't think we're into wrong here, but I'm still worried we're taking this too far. Are we the a-holes? Now for the comments. You've been telling her to stop doing this for 5 years? Not the a-hole. She started doing this around the same time my daughter was born. She eased up during the pandemic, though it was probably because we barely sent her pictures of them then, but went back to it as soon as she started seeing the kids again. Well, either she makes the choice or you do. Your offer expires in a week. After that, she's definitively excluded. I like this approach. Thanks. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being really cruel to my mom when I last spoke to her? A few weeks ago, I, 17 male, kind of left my mom's house without saying anything. My sister, a 20 female, and I had planned it. So I was close enough to 18 for our mom to be left with nothing to get me back. She's already no contact with her, and now I'm basically following in her footsteps. We're both tired of mom prioritizing being a stepmom to her husband's kids before being a mom to us. It started when I was only 7. My mom got married to her husband, and he brought kids along who were 5, 4, and 2 at a time. Their mom abandoned them, and our dad died when I was 2 or 3. I don't remember him. My sister has some memories. She thinks they were separated at a time, and we think it could be why mom was like she was. To put it in the simplest of terms, her stepkids came first. If one of us and one of them had something on, she went to their thing. My sister had the spelling bee she attended, and one of mom's stepkids had a karate thing. My mom and her husband went to the karate thing, and mom tried to make me go too, but I went with the school to the spelling bee. She told me I should have been there for her stepkid. She got really mad about it. I told her I wasn't going to support some rando over my sister. My sister was getting an award another time, and one of the stepkids had a game. The game took priority again. I had a debate thing on, and one of the steps had a dance recital. The dance won out. Those are some examples. But whenever it came down to it, that's how things were handled. My sister tried talking to mom, but it ended in a fight. She told us we were trying to hug her, but we never got her time. They got it all. She baked with them and took them shopping and for kid date nights. That was never stuff that happened with us. And if one of us wanted to do something and it clashed with them wanting to do something, they got to do it. Even when they had their dad and were doing stuff with their dad, mom picked them. My sister moved out 3 years ago, and it got more frustrating without her in the house with me. The steps wanted to be close to us, but we wanted nothing to do with them. I know it's not their fault, but I still consider them randos and never cared about them or loved them or anything. My mom noticed way faster than I expected that I was gone. She called a bunch of times and I ignored her at first, but then I answered. She told me I was still a kid and I didn't get to just leave. I told her she didn't get a say when she put someone else's kids first. She yelled at me for calling them that, and this is where I said some cruel stuff to her. I told her if their mom ever comes back, I hope they dump her, and I hope she enjoys knowing she'll never have her real kids, her future grandkids in her life because she discarded us like trash. I told her she was a useless mother and we would have been better off with her dad instead of dad. And I said if she ever found herself alone to die that way because we wanted nothing more to do with her. I told her I hated her. I told her I never gave a crap about her prick of a husband or her stepkids either, and nothing would change it. Then I ended a call and blocked her number, her husband's number, and any number I knew connected to them. On Christmas Day, I got a DM from someone, I think her husband, and he called me a crap stain and said I had been evil to my mother. He said I needed to get back and apologize and should be ashamed of talking like that to the woman who raised me. I didn't reply and blocked the account. Got another message from a different account 2 or 3 days after her saying more or less the same stuff. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I guess the truth hurts. I hope you and your sister live your best lives. Any family from your dad's side you both can turn to? My sister is trying to find our dad's parents. He was an only child, and we don't know if his parents are still alive or not. You're not the a-hole. I went through something similar, only, my little sisters are my half-sisters instead of step. I hated them when they were born and little. Now, as adults, I love them dearly. You're 17. Legally, there's nothing she can do to bring you back. Good luck, my guy. Not the a-hole. Your mom basically tossed you and your sister aside for the stepkids. That was wrong. Yes, what you said was harsh, but the truth hurts and needed to be said. Now, you need to check into the Social Security survivors benefits your mom's probably been getting on your behalf since your dad died. Toast may help you beyond the age of 18, for college, etc. Also, check into your state's health insurance and see what it takes to get on a plan. If you continue to receive those DMs, change your number. Whoever is sending them is probably using a free app to get random numbers to send them. She does get Social Security benefits, and my sister is looking into how we can change that, at least for me since we know I'd still be entitled to them. I already applied for new issues of some documents and stuff that I couldn't get. We're on the way to getting more help. The DMs are through social media, so I need to fully private my account if it continues and make sure I go through everything so random people can't DM me.